19 members, more or less, of the 1970 class of Lutheran Theological Seminary. We've made an important gift to the Richard C. Kessler Reformation Collection. We thank Seeley, who's somewhere in hearing range, I think, for taking care of the IT duties related to this gathering. And if you have any difficulty along the way, her cell number, she said to call her, Ada. Roy, thank you for your amazing service to the Kessler Collection.
Well, this has been fun.
Secretary of the collection with dedication and enthusiasm, and your amazing memory for all things Luther and the Reformation. You continue to nurture the collection like a doting father. So tell us about some of the significance of this purchase.
Will do. I have a little slide presentation, and I'm going to try to get it up and running. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
We're ready.
I'll see if I'm ready. We'll find out. And I don't have Seeley here to help me get up and running. Just a minute. See if Seeley can help. I may have to.
I bet James is every bit as adept.
Just a minute.
Here she comes.
Roy needs help, Seeley.
I need. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Not yet.
Can you see it now?
No.
No.
Can share screen?
Okay, let's see if I can do it one more time.
I love the flannel graph when you could put Moses on paper and then move it when you wanted to.
Whiteboard.
Jeez, man.
Here we go. Now do you see me? Now we see me?
It's
Yeah.
coming. Yes, yes. Perfect.
Okay. And if they just a minute, the slideshow from the beginning. That's the book we just bought. Samuel Bond, Latin, Dr.
I
Anderson.
don't hear any sound.
You don't hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you hear everybody? Okay, continue.
Continue.
Okay. Dr. Anderson, we are the class of 70, the scholars, and we just want to know we're continuing. We're still doing scholarly work. We just bought a Latin work, 1550, 1555. It's about 500 pages in total.
Well, I hope you all have good book reports on it.
This is my.
I didn't sign up for that.
Well, first, let me tell you a little bit about how I started collecting books by Luther, got involved in this. It actually goes back quite a ways. And Richard Kessler is the primary benefactor. Some of you may know him. He's a good friend of mine since teenage years. We met in Luther League. And for 40 years, I've been attending Christian businessmen's retreats with him. And about 30 years ago, we're in church leaving. He says, I'm collecting some books by Luther. And I said, I'd like to see them. So we went up for breakfast over to Emory, and they said, let's start a collection. Martin Luther, his friends and his enemies, and we'll collect during his lifetime up to 1570. And I was there and was made secretary, and that's my call. And so now I've been involved in that since then. It's my contribution to the church.
Let's stop just a minute, Roy. Let's all mute except Roy, because we're getting other interference.
Okay, I'm starting now, right? Okay. After 30 years of a systematic collection, here we are. In Martin Luther's works in the 16th century, we have 1,069. With this one, we'll have 1,070, which is more than Harvard and Yale combined. This is the premier collection in the United States. Worldwide, we just did this last week. I was surprised. We are number 5 in the world. Now, Wolfenbüttel is out there by themselves. Probably, I would say, it's about 5,000 works by Luther, according to my calculations, in the 16th century. But we're ahead of the British Library. And anyway, we're just real pleased to know that. We worked very, very hard. Why Emory? Emory says we're large enough to do this and not so large like a Princeton that would get lost. And the Methodists say, you Lutherans do not have a monopoly on Luther. We appreciate Luther too. So we can do Luther as well as you can. Here's the, we're trying to be more than just a book collection. We have a big Reformation Day and lectures in past years. Dr. Anderson graciously came to speak one year. Martin Marty did, Scott Hendricks, Mark Edwards, Timothy Wingate, lots of other people. That we do that every year. This year, we're doing something different with a series of lectures. We'll have one next Wednesday. At the bottom of the page, that book by Luther in 27 about the Black Plague it's really, I don't know if you read it, it is spot on. It is excellent. So this will be for Valparaiso, Ron Ritter's Reformation of Suffering. He's an expert on pastoral care. I think you're really, he's a highlight of this little series. You think you would like him. Okay, now for the books. I got to hold it for 15 minutes. Dr. Anderson, I probably held more Luther books than most Luther scholars. That was a little byproduct of working. I go over there most weeks and help. But if we've had 3 PhD book experts look at this, and the first is Pat Graham, who is retired professor at librarian from Emory, and he has probably bought upwards of 10 or 15,000 books in his career. They have a rare book collection of about 140,000, about 4,000 total in the Kessler Collection, counting his friends, his enemies, and Luther. This is the work, Octavo, you see right here. It's a beautiful piece of work, small, easy to, you can take around, handy carried around. But I'm going to show you the pages first. I want to show you when I started, we're going to first talk about 500-year-old books. The first thing I learned years ago, look how white it is. It's made of linen. Acid was added years later when they did wood pulp and added, but this is white. And look at the quality of the print and the margins. And if you look at the top over here and the marginalia, right here and the right here. Uh-oh, gotta go back. It's just wonderful work. I do want to point out one thing I'm trying not to do. You see, this is 16th century. One difference is the catchword. You see the word up here, and you go all the way bottom down to here, the same word. That was when those people who were collating probably were not very literate. So the words, the book get together correctly. This book has 154, 155, like we do today. Of these 5 works, 1 or 2 of them have no page numbers. One has every other page number, a page number on every leaf. I want to show you another work. Look at the Timothy Wingate looked at this as well. Timothy, by the way, we told him what we're doing here, and Dr. Anderson, when you're going to be on the conversation, he went all out. He's on our scholars advisory, real helpful to us. And a lot of my presentation, folks, is really Timothy's presentation. He got a lot of interesting facts upon all these 5 works we have. He says this is 16th century hand, and we know someone who is an expert on the handwriting from the reformers. He has a list of some 600 reformers. He has information on them he can identify. The guy is Ulrich Bumenheimer from Heidelberg. We had him over here for about 6 weeks ago, or 6 weeks, about a year ago, and he looked at the marginalia in our books. He's a good friend of Scott Hendricks. They went to school together. But that's one more thing we're going to do. There's a lot more work to be done on this book, but that is one thing. Again, you see the notation at the top of the page. You see the marginalia. That's probably a different hand, probably a different century. Take an expert to tell you that. Here's another page. Look, if you look carefully, it has Exodus 4, chapter 4, no verses. This verses were not used until, you remember, Robert Estienne in 1551 came out with verses, that ones we use today. It was another probably 10 years before they got widely used. So no verses. no other notations. Now I want to start and go one by one of each of these books. I'm going to start with the Armin Sidleski, Rare Book Librarian, translated the Latin for me. History of the Life and Works of the Most Reverend Man, Dr. Martin Luther. And you see here, Bona Fide by Philip Melanchthon, Wittenberg, and a picture of Luther, and it's 53. This is the one page we don't have. We'll have a replica. We have the other 500 pages. I do want to say one thing about the VD16. That is the notation. If you're collecting books, you want to know if the book, what the book number is. That's a long German name. Everybody says VD16. That is the list of every work in the German language, German land in the 16th century, regardless of language. It's about 106,000 of these works. There's also something called a VD17, and maybe one day they'll do a VD18. There's also an English version for America and Britain, but the VD16 number is 3420. This book is widely held, according to these books, 5 other holdings in North America. We always check to see who else has it. You can look on WorldCat, and if you know what you're doing, you can find this out. California Davis, Berkeley, Bethany College, Concordia, and Duke. The other works are only held by one or by none. Typically, when we bring a work to America, we look and try to find works that are not held by anyone else in the country. Now, 1/3 of our works are only held by Kessler, another 1/3 only one other library. We pride ourselves on being able to do that. Timmons says, and I think he's just making this announcement, this is the first biography of Luther. It was first put together by a young seminarian, a year out of seminary, Johannes Policaris in 47. And in 1549, Melanchthon published this in Erfurt, and this is a 1553 copy. But this is the first work. I'll show you a couple of pages. You see, this is the first page. You see read the top. It's kind of repeating as a history of Luther. The first letter is initial letter with a woodcut. You see on the top 1483. That's his birth. You can kind of read lines there, and then you can see the bottom is 1546, 18th of February. That's his death. That's the biography of Luther. It's the next one, the second work, Little Dictionary of Theology. This printer, and printers were pretty independent. If you wanted to print a book, you went to the next town, you bought the book, and you came back and you printed. You didn't have to contact anybody. No copyright laws, and the author got no money. But the definition over here is definitions of many expressions that are used in the church. Philip Melanchthon, you see they've abbreviated his name over here and on the title page. And Torgau, the city near Wittenberg. And there was an edition in 52, another edition in 53. This is the 54 edition. Now, when you get, and I agree, there are some printings of the 3rd edition of the Loci Communis that have these as an addendum. This is standalone, and normally is an addendum either for Loci or either for the questions for ordinance. Folks, how would you like to have be ordained and have questions from Melanchthon have to go through? But this little dictionary was either an addendum to one of these, even though it stands alone. I want to say something about that 3rd edition. That is considered the first of the classical Lutheran orthodoxy. Loci has an interesting history since we're talking about Melanchthon. His first edition was in 21. It started out as notes for his students and Romans, and it got so well circulated, he decided to print it. He reprinted that over all of his life It went through 4 major revisions, lots and lots of minor revisions. We always bid. Any one time one of these comes up, we actually have 43 copies of the Loci. I'm real proud of that. But he was a rewriter. That's going to come up over and over here. And then this one is on Proverbs. You see the title, Explanation of the Proverbs of Solomon, presented at the University of Wittenberg in the year 55. Timothy said he lectured twice on Proverbs, and he produced a commentary in 25, another one reworked it in 29, and another one, I think it's 53, that's off my screen, 50, I mean. And he revised the third one twice. Again, 5 different revisions. And listen to this. One of his students took his notes without Melanchthon's permission or approval, printed his Melanchthon's notes as his book. And Melanchthon, of course, was not pleased by that at all. That actually happened a second time. Someone else took his notes and one of the students and printed it under Melanchthon's name, but and Melanchthon said they didn't do a very good job. This is held by one other library. And then I go back, did I miss something? I missed a really important point, folks. And scholars, this is the first edition of this book on the Little Dictionary in America. This one is held then by one other, by Concordia. One thing I learned, this is a little off topic, when Melanchthon was such a rewriter, he did the same thing with the Augsburg Confession. The first and the second editions are kind of close together. Some people even say the second edition has some points that are better. The third edition by Melanchthon was widely major changes. In the fourth edition, we call it altered, and we reject that. But he was a rewriter. This is George Major. I think this work says something about the person who put these 5 works together, because he is very much in the Philippist camp. He was a student of Melanchthon, and he really, I think that's the indication of the character of the position of the person who put these together. And it's on the origin and authority of the Word of God. George Major was a professor at Wittenberg. He was dean. He was rector. He was a student of Melanchthon, representative of the second colloquy of Ratisbon in 1546. He was the one. He was the one in the very center of the majoristic controversy. Remember when he talked about he gave too much emphasis on good works according to his opponents. Timothy says he published 13 works on the 13 Paul's letters. We have 34 of his works in the collection, very prolific. We also have a work on the Lutheran view of the saints, kind of the Lutheran perspective. Another work on the Lutheran perspective on the Church Fathers. This is kind of the Lutheran's perspective on the authority of the church. And you see over here, the title, that's Frankfurt. That's not Frankfurt, Maine. That's Frankfurt Adore. That's a small city. There are 2 Frankfurts. And this is the one from Luther on the Jews, this last one. The title, On the Last Words of David, a faithful commentary and sacred explanation converted into Latin sermons by the studious and diligent Kessler Collection. Kessler Collection did this on his deathbed, according to Timothy. There were 5 works, by Luther. The Jesus was a Jew, which is a good one. And then there's one not well known. There was some Christians in Moravia who converted to Judaism, and he wrote an angry letter about that. And then 43, the 3 bad ones, Jews and their lies. Second, Jesus was Messiah. And this is the last words of David. This also includes a translation of those 7 verses from 2 Samuel 22 from the Hebrew into the German. And you see it's from Leipzig. So that's the 5 works we have, guys. And now this, oh, look at the cover. This is an unusual cover. We hadn't seen many of these. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's a pigskin covered with paper. Can you see that at the very top, you can see little outlines right here, maybe some work on leather below. And this is a sharp line here. This is a paper over pigskin. Why they did it, we don't know. We think it was put in a library about the time this was done. It's our guess. And maybe the pigskin was not, had some wear. This book appears to have been used. I want to show you, this is where, can you see where the clasp, it would have had clasp on it? That's where one is missing. This is the front page again. That's the back cover. That's from a front page photo. This is the back of this. You see it had a call number here. That's off. It is some notations about the books here. But look when you get over here, 16th century all the way. The book is 16th century. The cover was added later. You see the 5 books, the names right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the 16th century, you would put today, of course, we stack a book like this. They would do it in the 16th century. You have this clasp. So you put the book out like this. If you look, the pages are very smooth. They would have a guillotine to kind of make them very smooth, because you had 5 works, you put them together, you want them very smooth. I don't know if you can quite see it, but in the stitching, they make this a little rounded. And it's rubricated, the red, and most of this red still intact. That's a little unusual. You see the pages are well done, and this has been red on the top and the bottom. And now we come to the interesting, I've reread this. There's been lots of emails from my 3 experts. What's going on here? I have many questions as well as answers. And this is where, if you have a book, you want to look to see who it's owned. If you have a book, there's a rare book owned by a very famous person, that's special. And see the title over here, Library, Privy Counselor, Karl Gerald von Kettelholt, acquired by Prince Ludwig Friedrich zu Schwarzburg, Rudolstadt, 1804. Both of these guys, the Kettelholt and Prince Frederick, on the web. Kettelholt was a book collector, and apparently the prince bought both his library and the building itself around 1804 and put it in this library, this common library, public library here, along with some other books. More to be filled out in this, but that's kind of what we know right now. And going from 1804 forward, that means they had to make it through World War II and East Germany. I don't know whatever happened there. East Germany at one time was selling around books for cash. But here's the big deal. And Timothy pointed this out, said this is a pretty neat, big Lutheran name, House of Schwarzburg. And this is the city they're from. That's Schwarzburg, Germany, 100 miles south of Wittenberg. If you have a Book of Concord, 3 signers of the Book of Concord, House of Schwarzburg, right here, John Gunter, William I, and Albert. And there's a lot of connections between this House of Schwarzburg and Luther. One of the counts was with Luther when he died. It's a very prominent family. And he mentions, I found this letter to Katie, he mentions his family. And then this again is from Timothy, he showed me this. This is Letters of Melanchthon. At the top, I want to show you what's in the Kessler Collection. We have his correspondence. You see 1570, that's his son-in-law, Caspar Pusa, 2 volumes. He was a minister as well. And the smaller collection is from 1566 in Basel. But you're going down, the M over here, the MBW, that's Melanchthon works in German, multi-volume work, that's his documentation. Melanchthon wrote a letter to 4 of these members, Katrina, Albrecht, and 2 of the Gunters. There's a letter to Melanchthon, as you keep going down, they mentioned Albrecht. And this is a big one. In 1555, Melanchthon sent this book a questions for ordinance. We mentioned that earlier. The little book we have, a little dictionary of theological terms, was often is an addendum to that in 1555. And so it's can you get back to her library? We think she had a library, and that would be really neat. 16th century woman speaks Latin, can read Latin, and has a library. Now that's the big question. But folks, that's good news. That's special news, and I know the people, everybody over at Emory in the book, they're really excited about this, and realize a lot more work has to be done to try to fill in some of the holes. You see, I have as many questions as I have answers, but it's a big deal. And I'm going to show you this, and then we'll turn it back over to Trexler. This is the last step. We're going to catalog the book. I want to show you how this is done, because it's done different from a rare book. This is we put on the WorldCat. Now, WorldCat, every library in the United States is on that. It's also connected to Europe, so every library in Europe will be connected. So when we put this up in a few weeks, this will basically go all over the world and be there on a permanent basis. We'll put the title. That's the very first. And you come down, you put the uniform title, because, you know, some of the publishers, you know, we kept changing the title. So if somebody's looking for this book, they would look with the uniform title. This notes, this is someone else. This is what we'll put. Richard C. Kessler, Reformation Collection, Pitch Theological Library, acquired through the generous subvention of LTSS Class 1970. And then when you're doing a rare book, if there's anything in it on that front page, which is this is another book. We put all this information in it. And these two, the prince and the person who collected all the books, they'll be put in there too. So if anybody's searching for that Schwartzberg, they'll find this book. Also, our rare book cataloger always puts a couple of sentences on how this book, what this book is, and how it fits into the whole Reformation. Sometimes that takes PhD level research to take a little book and how does this fit in, who it was, and what are the details about the book. We detailed the binding and then the VD. And with that, I'm turning it over to Trexler. So Trexler, you on?
I'm on, Roy. I think the work that Roy does with this, I mean, it is truly amazing. And he can go on and on, as you can tell, about it, and it's fascinating. And also, anytime that you might be in the Atlanta area, he'd be more than happy to see that you got in connection with some of this. I mean, the collection is amazing. It's in a new Pitt library. The building is new, has fabulous displays in it. But I wanted to say just a little bit about our appreciation for Hugh George Anderson. If you all want to, if you want to take down that and get back to our we want to thank you for teaching us as we continued our preparation to serve our Lord through ministry in the church and the world. Your teaching not only included the facts, but more importantly, the significance of events in church history and how they continue to shape our theological understandings. You are our only professor who regularly invited us into your home for Friday afternoon conversation on whatever topics were hot at the moment. You were willing to generate seminars that addressed our special interests. You held our feet to the fire when it came to classroom participation and preparation. You even went camping with some of us. Later, you served as the president of Southern Seminary and the president of Luther College and the presiding bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And now for your surprise, with joy and appreciation, we're donating this Sammelband in your honor. We want to thank you for all the ways that your life has helped to shape ours. So there was a very special reason we wanted you in on this gathering today. And I want to just we'll give you a chance to speak in just a few moments, but if some of us might like to share a memory or two from our class about Hugh George Anderson. Just unmute yourself and go to it.
All I remember is that if you dropped your pencil, you lost 200 years in the class.
I remember our first class with Dr. Anderson. First time we got in the classroom, I was sitting over next to the window, and he passed out the syllabus, and we all looked it over. It had times for all the, you remember this? It had times for all the papers and the assignment for each day. And there was an assignment for that day, a reading assignment. And somebody said, well, Dr. Anderson, we just got the syllabus and we didn't know about this reading assignment. And he said, as only George could say, he said, well, I guess you're already behind. And that was the closest I got to being caught up that year.
That's about right. That's exactly right.
Here we are.
Neat.
This is Hako. Just
Yes,
wanted to say to Dr. Anderson that I know I was not one of your best students, but you were definitely one of my best teachers. Thank you so much
No
for.
doubt about that. No doubt about that.
So I just wanted to thank you for all that you have given to us and what you have given to the church, not just Lutheran Church, but the Christian church. And we just want to thank you for that. And this is a small token of our esteem for you and for your ministry to us. Thank you.
I wanted to say that I still have my church history notes that I typed up after each class. I still got them in a notebook.
You want to publish those?
I hadn't thought of that. I was leading a class on church history at the local church, and was referring to those along with some other texts. I did let go of my I have the Wilson Walker textbook online now on Kindle edition. I'll let the copy go because I didn't want to move it anymore. Kindle.
This happened after seminary, but I was at the churchwide assembly when we elected George as the presiding bishop of the church. And I was then the first bishop that he installed as presiding bishop. And I will always remember that day for that very reason. It made it extremely special.
That's apostolic succession.
What was that?
That's apostolic succession, I said.
Oh.
I always
Right.
wondered if that were the case. You were part of my ordination in Columbia, and I always claimed apostolic succession as a result of that. The Episcopalians really appreciate it, you know?
Yeah. Sort of key to them, isn't it, Cook?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, we were at the assembly where Dr. Anderson was elected also, and right before the election, there was a chance to be out greeting people in the hallway and having a little break, and I had a chance to tell him hello, and he introduced me to some of his friends, and I was like, oh, he's going to introduce me as one of his friends. And what he said was, this is my friend Celie. She runs with a rough crowd.
Did we lose George?
I hope not. I guess we did.
Hopefully he'll be back in a minute.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got your phone number, Celie.
Maybe.
He guys, I got the money, so that worked out.
Oh, good.
And so they'll play it, and they're gonna send you a thank you. No, and also they were very appreciative of that. Yeah. And I'll put that when we catalog it, I'll let you know that.
Good.
But anyway, we had some royalties on that book. that became a little special and kind of surprised everybody.
Hmm.
Well, we just gotta wait.
Yeah, let's wait just a minute.
What do you mean that we got royalties up from that book?
You got him, Bill?
I'm gonna see.
He didn't faint, did he?
I don't know if we overwhelmed him or what.
I wondered
Worry
about
about
that.
those things.
He used to come to the Virginia Synod conventions, and got a picture of him somewhere talking to.
There he is.
There he is.
My battery ran down.
Mine does that all the time.
I know the feeling. No.
Yeah. That's,
Were you there? Were you there when I told my story about you?
No,
No, he wasn't, Seeley.
Tell it again.
Repeat it.
I was saying that James and I were at the assembly when you were elected, and it was one of those break times where you could be out in the hallway and greet people, and you were with some of your friends, and I said hello, and you were going to introduce me to your friends, and I'm thinking, well, all right, he's going to introduce me as one of his friends. And you said, this is my friend Seeley. She runs with a rough crowd. It was great.
Well, you see, here's the rough crowd. In crew, you guys have always been a special bunch.
that's true.
I do want to thank you all. This is totally a great surprise that you worked out. And I was so pleased that you have been more interested in keeping me into your reunions and so on than most other classes. And that's been a special gift to me. You know how it is as you come back to parishes where you've been and people remind you of things you've said, sermons you've preached and so on. And you often hear from them words that say, well, thanks for this or that sermon, or when you were with me at a time of difficulty. It's the same way, of course, with those of us who teach, that when you have a chance to hear from former students, it's kind of like bringing back those days. And like a pastor, as all of you are, the first parish is very meaningful to you. And for me, my time at Southern Seminary was really formative because I was basically a kid when I came. And I grew up, my children were born in Columbia and part of the seminary. My wife was with me in those days. And those are great memories. In fact, I've been trying now to write a memoir for myself to recall as much as I can of those days. And it would be fun to be able to hear from each of you, as you have done with your class, the memories you had. It would be fun to hear individually from you all kinds of stories about your classmates and the time you were there and where you've been since. My goodness. I mean, Roy, I can't imagine how anybody would have guessed that you would be the instrument of bringing to this country so much of Martin Luther's work. And we could go down every one of you. So many thanks, and especially for today and what you meant to me.
Well, you know, I remember as a young pastor how willing you always were to go anywhere you were asked to come and to present, and really in whatever kind of at whatever level or whatever topic. You said yes. I mean, you came to the smallest parish. You went to the high steeple places. It didn't make any difference to you. you shared yourself. And when we think about all the different ways that you have shared yourself over the years, it's truly amazing. I mean, it really, really is.
Well, if you remember the faculty in those days, we all went out a great deal. I remember Benny would go to any church anywhere and tell them what was wrong with the Ten Commandments. And he did the same thing during the desegregation conflict before many of you came to seminary. He was out there talking about what the Bible said about race.
I want to add to that right there. I wanted to report an impact you had on my life. As we were going through an awakening of racial relationships, I remember you in a group asked, how would you feel? How would you feel if you had to go to the balcony, to the back of the bus, to a separate water fountain? And that stuck with me. I often, that changed perspective for me, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of you were missionaries for many good things in your ministries. And thank you all for making my life there such a blessing.
We're thankful to be a part of it.
Were we going to put JJ's thing on at the very end, Seeley, or?
Yeah, just in case I kill the whole thing.
I have one more thing I want to show you guys. Would you like? I want to show you the 95 Theses. I don't think you've seen the original 95 Theses. A copy of that. I have that for you.
They got the nail hole in it.
That's what I was looking for.
That's what I was wondering too.
The postmark. They were posted as.
That's right. They were posted. These are printed. I'll show you this. Are you Sealing? You working on it?
No, you have to hit share screen.
Oh, I'm the guy to do it. Yeah, I got to do it. Okay. You're waiting on me.
Yeah.
See, this is the part that our generation isn't real good with.
No doubt about that.
Mark never taught us this.
Seeley's a lot younger than we
Got a
are.
lot out of that.
I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go out of order. I'll just show you one thing and let you see this. See if I can get to it in just a minute.
Yeah.
There it is, folks. That's the original 95 Theses. Can you hear me?
Wow.
Yes.
This disputation by Martin Luther, Doctor of Theology, regarding the explanation of the power of indulgences.
Wow.
This is out of Basel. One sold in 2015, the big year for Luther, for $1.2 million at auction.
Wow.
Here it is. I'm trying to read all of this. Out of love and truth, this says right, and Martin Luther intends to defend the following statements. And it goes on to say, if you can't be present, send him a letter. This was printed in 1517. One was too much, November, December. We don't know for sure what. But I'll show you something odd about them. This is the one, look at the numbers. This is the very first one. You get to 25, and look what they do. They start at 1. They do that again. They get to 25, and they start at 1. A third time, you get to 75. I'm not showing those pages. And this is the final. That's where you get to 95. You see that's 15, 17. The 95 Theses are not 95. They're all 95 of it. And this is a second one. That's out of Basel. There are 2 more done. And this is Nuremberg. You see the sheet. This could be posted. This is one sheet, a broad sheet, play card that could be posted. We look over here, 25, 25, 25, 20. And it's the same way. So Luther, 2 years later in 1519, reproduced those. This is 8 pages. He reproduced those in 19 with notes. That was 118 pages. It was with comments. but it did have that. I looked it up. It has 95. Anyway, I want to show you one more thing. Dr. Anderson, I don't even know if you know that, but they're digitizing all of this VD16. So all that's going to be on the web.
Wow.
We have about 160 things with the Kessler Collection we're going to put on the web. Bavaria State Library is doing this. This is Scott Hendricks. He just described what I just subscribed. I'll send this to you. He tells precisely what happened those 2 months, as far as we know, and what was posted, what was not posted. I'll send you this, and if you want to see all of these different documents, the First Lutheran Hymnals, the September Testament, Augsburg Confession, on and on, you can look them up and actually see digitized copies of all of it, even the bull against Luther. But anyway, I get excited about that sort of stuff.
Boy.
It's all being digitized now. So I know, Dr. Anderson, in your time you had to travel to Germany. Now you just pull up your computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, how are we going to get that email up?
I want to do one more thing, Roy, and
Right.
then in case it does knock us off. April 22, 2021, Lord willing, and COVID-19 abates, LTSS Alumni Day will take place in person on the campus in Columbia. You know, we were all primed for that this year. At that time during the luncheon, we'll be able to present our class gift that's grown to $7,500 and is earmarked for the Good Shepherd Fund that assists students with tuition expenses. I could not take, if you still have not been able to contribute to that, there is still time, brothers. We've been given a 1-year grace period while sheltering in place. Make your check to LTSS and include on the memo line, class of 1970 Good Shepherd Fund, and mail it to 4201 North Main Street, 29203.
Right.
One more thing, Celia, can you get it up, the email up?
All right, I'm going to try this right now. If I lose everybody, it's with my deep apologies.
No, thank you so much for helping us.
In the first place.
Let's see if I can do this.
It's only appropriate that we hear from Scherer at the for the amen. I think she's doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can see that.
Yay, okay, here we go.
that's it.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, H. George. This is JJ coming to you from Warsaw, Poland. I'm going to be doing a workshop when this is happening, and I can't be there. I'm really sorry. But somebody said, do you have any memories of H. George Anderson? Well, my first memory was my first week at seminary, and I was in the new building walking along. I forgot what the name of the building was, but the pool tables were down on that floor. I was walking along, and this other guy comes up beside me, and I said, hey, how are you? JJ Scherer. So he said, yes. He said his name, and I think he said George Anderson or something like that. And I said, oh, George, are you a senior here? With a great face. No, actually, I haven't gotten that far yet. I think, Trex, I think you were either nearby, or I think I told you about that. And you said, JJ, do you know who that is? I said, and George something, he said, H. George Anderson, he's a really hard professor here at church history. My years at seminary, but I just wish I was there. I'm there in spirit. George, you know how important you were to me and still are to me, and to all my buddies there. What a great time we had. So anyway, if this gets to be played, my hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to you and all the people that you care about to be safe in this time. Take care. Love you. Bye-bye.
So JJ celebrated his 80th birthday
Wow.
this year.
Wow.
Was he a little older than the rest of you?
Yes, he was
Yeah.
in the Navy for like 3 years or something like that.
In Vietnam. I remember that well.
And so he he really is sheltered in place because he has sort of a late developing asthma. And his son JJ is there, sort of taking care of some of the externals.
You know, I've just been thinking about him because Warsaw has been really hard hit by this COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. He's not allowed to leave.
I see.
The
JJ
building.
does have one.
I think they're a little more strict about keeping people sheltered in place than we are in this country.
Lockdown involves a lock.
Right.
Said several times, I'm glad I'm not trying to do ministry just now. How do you build a church virtually? You know, it just,
Spend a lot of time on Zoom.
really.
I have preached twice, and the second one was more of a disaster than the first. Preaching with a mask and glasses, my glasses started to fog up, and then it started to frost up. And every time I'd take them off, I'd lose my place in the sermon. I put them back on, and I actually got an email from one of the guys that was watching from home and said, you know, if you got reading glasses, you wouldn't have to put those on and off all the time. And I thought, that's the only thing you'll take away from that sermon. And it was if you didn't have to watch this fool taking his glasses off because they were frosted, fogged up. It'll be a long time before I'm in the pulpit again, I think.
I find that if you slide them down your nose, they don't fog up as bad.
Very good.
Then I can't see my sermon.
Yeah, you can. You got bifocals?
Oh, yeah.
Well, folks, it's hard to break this up, but I know that we need to stop at some point.
Give me another quick little story.
Good.
We went to Anderson's house on Friday afternoon religiously. It was one of the most important places, learning experiences that I had. And the thing that we all noticed, George, is you always came out with your slippers on, your bedroom slippers. And I don't know whether you remember, but one day we all decided to show up in our bedroom slippers. And we sat there for a while, and about halfway through, you just kind of took a look around the whole living room there on Main Street, and everybody had on bedroom slippers and just broke out laughing. It was imitation in the best of ways.
That's what made your class so special.
A rough crowd.
I know you think we probably came for Sonny's cookies, but
I remember my own seminary.
yes,
Well,
that's
we
an
were
excellent model.
Yes.
we were on at least one of the camping trips that you went on, Dr. Anderson, and you and your family came, and that was a really special time, just away from everything and just kicked back, and it was delightful. And I've always been so glad that y'all said yes to that.
It's 11 o'clock.
Well, thank you.
We were the singed eyebrows.
Right.
That must be in Arizona. You probably don't remember this either, George, but I always admired a wood carving that was in your office. And so one day when I was in there, I said, could I borrow that and have someone I know make a copy of it? So this has been with me everywhere I've been since. A lady I knew in Greenville did that for me, and I always think of you when I see it.
Well, that's just about an exact replica of the one I have.
It is close.
Sure
I mean,
is.
that was the model for it.
Roy and Bill and Seeley, thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Roy's the inspiration.
Yep. Really appreciate you tracking that down.
Roy, we all learned a lot.
You're muted.
He's muted. Oh my gosh.
I've had a good time crashing this. Thank you.
Roy, you're muted. We didn't hear that last part.
I also understand that I think every year somehow they try to get a group of students over to Kessler. Is that right, Roy? From seminary. You're muted.
Yes, we have them over. Yes, and I've been trying any way we can help them. I've tried to do that. Yeah, I did something. I came up. Took me a while to do it. I listed every works by Martin Luther. I thought it may help students, and so you could. It's about 600 in the order. How many sermons? How many whatever he had. But anyway, I think that will help them. Seminary, because it's hard to get your hands around. You wrote so much.
Might be interested in this little fact too. I was talking to Susan McCarver the other day, and the trend has changed. This entering class is larger than the entering class, and it's almost all Lutheran.
Wow.
Which is also a change.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm really excited about that, because I think the leadership we have now at the seminary is more in tune with the Lutheran Church.
Good.
You know, Mary Shore is just fantastic. She's doing a superb job. And she's just, you know, I mean, all the way, just that touch she did for our class in arranging that Zoom event we had when our 50th was canceled, is just an example. But she's using the house much as you did, George. It's not just sitting there, you know, but utilizing it. And I mean, I'm hopeful. I think the new professor who's, you know, working with Lutheran studies and some others is also being very well received. Mergers are always tough. I don't care what the institution is, and it's just taken a while to sort of work around and have a new normal. Of course, the COVID hasn't helped it be a new normal, but they're working with that too.
Trexler and I on the board went to the board meeting. We can't make salaries. We don't have any money, and that started the whole process. But there was some long days in there. But they really were out of money.
Yeah,
they couldn't make payroll. Yeah, so many reasons. Very complicated.
Yep.
Well, again, thank everybody for participating in the gift. And George, we love you, and hope for you many, many more years.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Again.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Blessings to each and all.
Hope to see you next year.
Okay.